to Antelope Valley College, History Department, HIST116, Chief Sidnam. Hi, Prof. Tyrant in the house. Regarding discussion 11, I'm getting the notes together, putting them into the assignment right now. And there is a warning concerning about students using their Kindle books for any commentary, and I discovered this the hard way. Apparently, the authors had put in a limitation of how many times you can copy material out of books. Especially we're dealing with the Kindles. I'm coming across that one regarding the book that we're using right now, Donaldson's. So I'm going to have to basically type the thing in by hand. I usually been copying and pasting the information. It was a lot simpler, but they have an amount. So the fingertips are going to have to be used extensively. Regarding the material being used. There was a lot of information in there. I wasn't paying attention to the local news all those decades ago. I was more concerned about the survival of my family and about when the next rent check is going to be due and how much money we had coming in, depending on how many times we're actually able to get work one way or another. I mean, we as a family. Ma was doing the bookkeeping, income tax. Dave, any kind of driving job he could get, and security work. Me, I'm a general schlub. In the year of 1991 through 1992, actually, let me backtrack on this one here. 1987 to 1991, I was working full-time 4 years behind the counter over at Circuit City Northridge, or the Circuit City Corporation. And we had a new guy coming in 91. New cash office manager. Didn't realize this guy was a klepto. Real sticky fingers. Looked at my records, thought he could use me as a patsy and just steal money from a register and blame it on me. So how corporate looked at. I got bounced. I was found out later, months later, that they actually had video camera from the other schmuck, but they didn't bother to contact me, and they really put me through a depression during that time. Besides, I was already going through it, headaches, ulcers. I was chewing on antacids and Tylenol for meals. Not to mention sun-kissed vitamin C tablets. They're very delicious. Very orangey, too. Keeps your energy level going. At least during those days. Anyway, I don't know about them anymore these days. But it was also going through the time when we're dealing with international intrigue. Art department here, Professor. Throughout 1990, kept track of the news. If it wasn't baseball, we were keeping track of World Series events. And 89 was a very memorable event. Thank God we weren't up there. We're down here in SoCal instead of up in Frisco. Yeah, it's like 3 or 4 months later, my brother and I decided to take a trip up to Frisco to see what was going on. We're attending a convention out there, and we just wanted to check out the sites. We did. We also checked out certain areas that were still going through the rubble. But they were still ready for tourists. Back in 90, we were watching it all. And then 91 happened, and we were watching it on the televisions. Late 91 is when the new CM that we got managed to strike in 1 month. Got bounced out and got into workers' comp at the time in California. Job stress. The laws were about to change before I could complete my course of treatment. So for about a year, I was stuck in my mother's office, learning and doing some work for her to keep me occupied and keep the rent check going. But during 91, we're watching the war on televisions, either at work, the job site I was working at in Circuit City, or at home. Yeah, for 3 months, not knowing if my friends or family were going to survive it, and then they came home surviving it, hailed as heroes. A lot of them got medals. My brother didn't. Gee, there's a long story concerning about my brother serving in the military. You see, you either serve God or you serve the family. Country is God, family is family. You swore an oath on the Bible. You swore an oath raising your hand up to the Constitution of the United States. And you swore an oath to defend the country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. You swore to God. You didn't swear to protect your family in any way, shape, or form. My brother got into the military was about 77, 78. And during that time, he was swearing an oath to God and kingdom, to the Constitution, and to the United States Navy. But 79, when my brother was already completed, I think 1 through 6 of the sessions that they go through in the SEALs, that he was an invalued sailor and team member, moving from 3 to 5, trying to work his way up to 6. And since he was trained in the West Coast, he was odd man, with the odd teams. But word came down that my grandmother, actually my aunt, had passed away, and my brother was on a mission. He came back, heard about it, and he wanted to get time off for the service. He couldn't. Pissed him off. Normally you're supposed to. But my brother was on a mission. Mission always comes first. He got pissed off at the Navy about that one. Then it was a few months later that Grandma had a stroke. Again, he went through all the channels up through Sinkback. He didn't push it all the way further enough to the Pentagon. He didn't. The Sinkback said no, then that was it. Red Cross, forget it. Red Cross couldn't help him. I don't know what the hell happened, but there were some things happened in his own past that prevented him from getting out other time off. He escaped. What the term was AWOL, absent without leave, missing ship's movement. He got fed up one day when the ship was in Bremerton. It was coral shit, called it. Well before it got DQ'd. And he packed his trash up, packed up a sea bag, telling people he's got laundry to do. He went over to the base's laundromat, did laundry, and got off the base and disappeared. The next day, ship moved. He wasn't on it. He was on his way home. Ma was already dealing with stuff at home with Grandma. We had moved from one neighborhood to another neighborhood, so it was very difficult for us. I was in school during junior high. I had to deal with my aunt's death. I had to deal with the move and the ramifications of that from one neighborhood to another neighborhood. And Dave shows up. I thought it was a miracle. But later on, he confided to me that he was AWOL. Unauthorized absence. Or unauthorized leave. They change the terminology so damn badly in these days. So he kept it quiet away from Ma. Lied to her. He lied to her. But he was always wary of if Shore Patrol was looking for him, and they were. Got to a point where he'd already bounced from several jobs. Ma was still leery about what the hell was going on. He couldn't tell her. He was too damn ashamed and afraid. We had an uncle who worked for the state of California, special investigator, stationed out in San Diego, actually out in El Cajon. He helped with a major case in California history. I think it was a major rapist that we had going on. And no, it wasn't the madman with the tattoo on his forehead. No, somebody else that he was involved with the case. And he came home. He came over to see how Mama was doing. Mama was happy to see him and be able to talk. My brother was home, and he knew my brother was in the Navy. So he got wind. So he asked my brother. My brother replied. And there was a little bit of an order somewhat from my uncle. If he came back out to see Ma again, Dave was there. He better have the paperwork correct, otherwise he was going to get busted. What he needed to do was turn himself in and go through the process. He wasn't about to disappoint him. My brother got discharged. Bad conduct. He almost could have got the DD. He got the big chicken dinner instead. At least that saved his ass. He was actually able to get work and vote and live. You're dishonorable, you're nothing. You're no longer a citizen. You're worse than carrion. That's how the military looked at people. Still do, I guess. Over my brother's lifetime from that point. This was back in the 80s. He had tried to get his discharge upgraded to general. Circumstance, people with character witness paperwork still didn't do it. They still lose his paperwork and said screw him. He dishonored the country, he dishonored the SEALs apparently. He was pronounced persona non grata. But here's the funny thing about the discharges. You still get to be called up by Uncle Sam at any time when you're needed for things. And that included if my brother was going to be needed in combat operations or major wars. despite my brother being out of the Navy and having things happening to him, they still utilized his ass. I find it unbelievable. They couldn't even bother to upgrade his damn discharge to general. Before his passing, when we moved finally into this apartment here, we actually had his paperwork. But in the process, we actually had it in a storage container, and we couldn't keep up with the paperwork, keep up with the payments on it. So my brother lost his chance for any more appeals. So for several years before he passed away, he lived, he survived. He hated it. And the military never called him back in for operation. When 9/11 kicked in, my brother's physical condition had deteriorated to where he was not able to deal with any military service or any function in the military. He finally got his ass out of the military and still has a bad conduct, or other than honorable, or other than general, whatever they called it electronically. He kept trying to check it out through through veteran centers that we have, including out here in VA, in the Antelope Valley, and other than general or other than honorable, but to them it was still in the paperwork bad conduct. He couldn't get that paperwork upgraded. He never had the benefits needed to take care of his health. But they would gladly give him benefits for death. Put his ass in the ground, that's about it. Not scatter him at sea. Which kind of sucked. Kind of sucked. Anyway, I think about the Iraq War because my brother was over there doing a job. And so was other friends I've had. Well, one more thing, if you haven't heard through the news, and you probably already have, President Trump is disbanding the Department of Education, which means any kind of programs that they have for graduates, say bye. Our nursing program at Antelope Valley College, you probably heard the scuttlebutt worse than I had. I'm catching the news offhand. Yeah, that being said, on that one I wrote, I'm sorry, Chief. Some things I'm definitely passing over to people I know of. So, we'll talk one of these here millenniums, I think, before class ends. Maybe just one time. Maybe.